It begins with a car in the rain. I think the defining moment of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is the death of Jonathan Joestar. Up until that point, the series is this campy, melodramatic battle shonen, and then in an instant, it becomes something different. Jonathan dies, and it suddenly becomes a series about his grandson. It becomes this generational saga, this story about a family's more than a century-long battle against evil. It becomes a story about legacy, and eventually, about that legacy's end. The main character of Stone Ocean is Jolene Cujo. She's the 19-year-old daughter of Jotaro, the lead of Stardust Crusaders. At the start of the part, Jolene doesn't know anything about her family's legacy. She doesn't know who Dio is, what stands are, what her father has dedicated his entire adult life to fighting. Jotaro wasn't around when Jolene was growing up. She began acting out, committing petty crimes in an attempt to get him to come home to show he cared for her. He never came. She doesn't see him again until she's in jail for a crime she didn't commit. Jolene is sent to Green Dolphin Street Prison. The inmates call it Stone Ocean. She calls her stand stone free and vows to escape from this ocean of stone. The first time we see Jotaro, he's in a cell after beating 4 punks to a bloody pulp. Except, he isn't under arrest. The cops tell him to leave, his mother tells him to leave, but Jotaro stays in the cell. He's haunted by an evil spirit, a powerful being he can't control. He won't leave because he's afraid that he'll hurt people. He steals a cop's gun, tries to shoot himself in the head, but the ghost won't let him die. I think this is the key to Jotaro. He's stoic, abrasive, calls his mom a bitch, but he's also scared. Scared of the people he cares about being hurt. When something he doesn't understand happens, he pushes his mother away and isolates himself to make sure no one gets hurt but him. The first time Jolene meets Emporio, he's giving her a warning, telling her that if she sees her visitor, something even worse than death will happen. Jolene goes anyway, hoping to see her mother. Jotaro is waiting for her. So angry is she to see him again, she beats the shit out of a guard so she'll be sent to solitary. Her father tells her she was set up by his enemies, by the followers of a man he killed. They don't care about Jolene. They ignore her once she stops being a useful pawn, but they know Jotaro loves her. They know if they endanger her, they'll get a chance to hurt him. Jolene says she doesn't want her father's help. She's angry and he's as stoic as he always is. She thinks that he doesn't love her, but he does. He just doesn't show it. As they are escaping, Jotaro and Jolene are attacked by a pair of stand users. One of them, Jongalier, fires at Jolene. Jotaro knows that it's a trap, but he uses his time stop anyway, to save his daughter. Doing so allows the other stand user, Enrico Pucci, to get the jump on Jotaro. Pucci's stand has the ability to rip out pieces of people's souls, transforming them into discs. He takes Jotaro's stand and his memories. As Jotaro collapses and falls into a coma, he tells Jolene that he has always cared for her, and Jolene's view of her father shifts. She drags him to safety, then returns to prison. She returns to this ocean of stone so she can find the man who ripped out her father's soul. She accepts fights to the death and months in solitary for her father. She will save her father just as he saved her. Jolene learns Pucci is hiding her father's discs in a tractor tire on the farm outside the prison. When Jolene and her friend Hermes go to retrieve the discs, they're attacked by a sentient swarm of plankton, Foo Fighters, a monster created by Pucci to protect the discs. Pucci created Foo by tossing a stand disc into a pool full of plankton. They are alive because of their stand, and they cherish being alive. They cherish having an intellect. Jolene and Hermes defeat them. Hermes is about to kill Foo Fighters when Jolene stops her. They aren't evil. They're fighting to protect their identity. Foo Fighters switches sides. They quickly become a caring, kind ally to Jolene and her friends. They start to become human, fall in love with playing catch and hanging out with their friends. That's why their death is so sad. Originally, what Foo Fighters fears most is the eradication of their own intellect. Originally, they served Pucci blindly, guarding his discs, but after meeting Jolene, after seeing her selflessness and drive, Foo changes. They realize that the point of life is to live, to make experiences. Their memories give them courage. That is what makes Foo Fighters alive. Not the discs, not Pucci, but the time they spent with their friends. When Poochie tries to take back Foo Fighters' stand disc, they shoot themselves in the head to escape, almost dying in the process. They cut their body in half to try to run for water and heal, but Poochie uses one of his stolen stand abilities to make all of the water they touch boil. They burn away into near nothingness, but still, they keep running, using the last of their strength to pass information about Poochie's identity onto Jolene. But Poochie is crafty. His stand, Whitesnake, disguises itself as Weather Report and follows Foo to Jolene. He tears Foo and Anasui apart. Jolene binds Poochie's hands, but he has another trick up his sleeve. He throws Jotaro's memories, the thing that makes him, into Anasui. When Anasui dies, the disc will be erased, and Jotaro will die with him. Jolene tries to save Anasui, but there's nothing she can do. With the last of their strength, Foo Fighters saves Anasui, and by extension, Jotaro. Foo Fighters' spirit, the spirit of a human being, floats away. They say they were scared of forgetting everything, of not even remembering how to say goodbye. But Foo Fighters gets a chance to say goodbye. Even without the disc, they had a spirit. They were alive, and now they're gone. Jonathan Joestar saves England, destroys the Stone Mask, and marries his childhood sweetheart, Irina. But Dio is still alive. He sneaks aboard Jonathan's honeymoon boat, turns the crew into zombies, and shoots Jonathan in the throat. With the last of his power, Jonathan punches one of Dio's minions into the ship's engine, causing it to explode. Jonathan doesn't survive, but he saves Irina and a young Lisa. The Joestar legacy continues on through Jonathan's selfless sacrifice. Sacrifices are common in JoJo, characters giving their lives for those they care about. George saves Jonathan from Dio. Will gets cut in half, saving him from Tarkus. Caesar uses the last of his Amon to give Joseph the antidote. Avdol uses his last moments to shove Polnareff out of the way when Vanilla Ice ambushes them. Iggy uses the last of his strength to save Polnareff from the same villain. Kakyoin uses his last moments to pass on the secret of Dio's time stop. And, at the end of Stone Ocean, when Joseph comes to Japan at the start of Stardust Crusaders, he explains that every member of the Joestar bloodline has the same birthmark on the back of their neck, a birthmark shaped like a star. This is how Joseph identifies Dio, because he has that birthmark on his neck, on the neck he stole from Jonathan. Dio stole Jonathan's happy ending with Irina, stole his life, stole his body, and in doing so, inexorably tied himself to the Joestars. Dio was Jonathan's brother, the Cain to his Abel, and he won. He returns after decades beneath the sea and sends assassins to murder Jonathan's descendants. But the birthmark, his connection to the Joestars, is also his undoing. Because he has Jonathan's body, when he is given a stand, so are Joseph, Jotaro, and Holly. Jotaro defeats Dio using a power granted to him because Dio was an endless blight upon his family. The birthmark continues to appear throughout the series. At the start of Bento Arreo, when Dio's son Giorno defeats Luca, his collar falls down, confirming he is part of the Joestar bloodline. The first chapter of Stone Ocean features a zoom in on Jolene, showing her star-shaped birthmark. When Poochie creates the Green Baby, this bizarre homunculus created from Dio's bone and the souls of slaughtered sinners, it has the birthmark. It is drawn to Jolene because of the mark on her neck. When Poochie absorbs the Green Baby as part of his plan to reach heaven, the birthmark appears on his neck. It also appears on the neck of Weather Report due to his relation to Poochie. Through this mark, this roundabout connection, Weather is able to track Dio's son Ungalo. His brother, Rinkel, presumably uses his mark to track down and attack Jolene. During their fight, as Jolene sets herself on fire to fight Rinkel, her coat burns away, revealing the symbol of their bloodline and the strife it has brought. She defeats Rinkel through her undying determination and through a lucky coincidence. Rinkel warns her that the will of Dio flows through the priest, that fate is guiding Poochie on his path to reach heaven. Enrico Pucci is the priest at Green Dolphin. He is obsessed with the idea of heaven. In his conversation with Mirashone, he says that the desire to go to heaven is what separates man from animal, that achieving this is what humans should aspire to. In the Savage Garden arc, he says that unconditional love doesn't exist, that people are only kind because they want to benefit from it. Pucci says that unconditional love is the expectation that you will eventually go to heaven. Later, he says that humans must strive to attain heaven, that the one who strives to find it will be able to lead all of mankind to it. Dio strived to find heaven. He saw heaven as the place where true happiness lay, something more valuable than his money or invincibility or being the ruler of mankind. He vowed to see it no matter how many things he had to sacrifice. When Dio died, Pucci took up his wish. They met in 1987, when he was 15, when Dio was hiding from the sun in a church. They meet by coincidence when Pucci trips over Dio's foot. "Do you believe in gravity?" Dio asks. He isn't talking about the fundamental force. He's talking about fate, about the path of destiny that brought Pucci and him together. Fate, gravity, is an undeniable part of the setting of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. As the old refrain goes, stand users attract stand users. Dio sees something in Pucci and gives him an arrowhead. When Dio leaves, Pucci discovers that his twisted foot has healed, a miracle from a man who answers to the name of God. 1 year later, Pucci learns a dark secret from a woman in a confessional booth. Years ago, she stole his twin brother and raised him as her own son, naming him Wes. When Pucci learns that his long-lost brother is dating his little sister Perla, he freaks out. He wants to protect her. He hires the Ku Klux Klan to break the pair up. They attack Wes and hang him. Perla, in her grief, kills herself. Enrico Pucci breaks down. He wanted to keep her safe, but she is dead because of his foolishness. He should have been the one who was damned, not her. At his lowest point, Pucci remembers Dio, the man who showed him a miracle. The arrowhead pierces his skin, giving him his stand. He wanted to stand to save Perla, but a lost life can never be regained. Instead, Pucci's stand gives him the power to preserve her memories, to keep her heart and soul alive. Wes survives the hanging. He survives multiple suicide attempts through the will of fate. He attacks his brother, but Pucci subdues him and banishes his memories. He leaves him in Green Dolphin, an amnesiac with no name. The idea of memory comes up again and again in Stone Ocean. Pucci steals Jotaro's memories so he can learn about the Heaven Plan. Miu Miu, the final stand user Jolene has to defeat to escape Green Dolphin, puts a lock on people's minds, preventing them from remembering more than a few things at once. And of course, Weather Report, the man who was once named Wes, doesn't have any memories of how he ended up in prison. Weather is first introduced as a stoic but kind man who becomes a steadfast ally to Jolene. But when Donatello Versus restores his memories, he changes. He becomes cruel and violent, attacking an injured man and a doctor for getting in his way. He electrocutes 2 random women for his own amusement. His powers grow out of control, turning everyone around him into snails, and he barely cares. Anasui threatens him, and Weather begs his friend to kill him. At this point, with his memories returned, all he wants is revenge, and, afterward, his own death. Weather is about to kill Pucci when the priest is saved by fate. The spikes of frozen blood he uses to impale Pucci cause Versus to crash his car, giving Pucci the momentary distraction he needs to kill Weather and run away. With his last moments, Weather rips out his own stand, leaving it as a disc for Jolene, a weapon to use against Pucci. Jolene's reaction to his death is heartbreaking. She says that she just wants to talk to him one more time. The anime adaptation of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is famous for its amazing intros. The first part, Phantom Blood, uses the opening JoJo Sonochi no Sadame, translating to JoJo Destiny of the Blood. The opening features this bombastic, energetic song, culminating with Jonathan fighting Dio in the Joestar Mansion, with a shot of Jonathan throwing a punch as the mansion spins around them. But my favorite part of the intro is the beginning. It begins with a manga panel of Jolene, then goes back through the panels of Giorno, Josuke, Jotaro, Joseph, and finally Jonathan. As it comes to Jonathan, the black and white panel transforms into full color animation. It took 25 years for Phantom Blood to finally get properly adapted, during which time the JoJo manga continued running. From the first seconds of the intro, it establishes that the series is going back to its beginning, to the noble warrior who began it all. It also establishes that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is the story of a family, that the lives of Jolene, Jotaro, and Jonathan are all one continuous thread. This is a show about the destiny of that blood. The second opening for Part 3 is called JoJo Sonochi no Kyoku, End of the World, translating to JoJo, Memories of the Blood, End of the World. It begins with clockwork gears and a pendulum swinging back and forth. Between its swings, we see Dio and the Joestars, members of this ancient feud. At the end of the opening, Jotaro punches a glass wall, shattering it, before turning to face Dio. He unleashes a flurry of punches like he has on so many villains before. But during the penultimate episode of the part, as Jotaro's fight with Dio begins, the intro changes. When Jotaro goes to smash the wall, time freezes. The music pauses, and glass hangs in the air as Dio walks past Jotaro. Then, the music returns. This time, Dio matches Jotaro's blows, blocking every punch. This is an incredible moment, this unstoppable villain stealing the intro. This trick is replicated in Great Days and Trader's Requiem, but I think it is used most effectively in Stone Ocean's second opening, Heaven's Falling Down. Dio's stand, the world, has the incredible power of stopping time. He kills Kakyoin and Joseph with ease and treats Polnareff like a joke. Jotaro, the normally unstoppable main character, is too slow to land a hit. Dio freezes time and charges in to end the Joestar bloodline and kill the arch-enemies who threatened his destiny. And then, Jotaro's hand begins to twitch. Dio assumes it's a trick until Jotaro punches a hole through his chest. When things are most dire, Jotaro's Star Platinum unlocks the ability to stop time. The fight is still difficult. Dio is far stronger and almost kills Jotaro when he throws a bunch of knives, but Jotaro wins. He seemingly puts his family's generational battle to rest. At Cape Canaveral, as Pucci prepares to reach heaven, his stand transforms. This new stand, Sea Moon, gives him the ability to manipulate gravity, not the fate that brings people together, the literal fundamental force. The main characters are almost killed as gravity turns sideways and an entire highway's worth of cars crash into them. As Jolene bitterly fights the stand, Pucci marches towards her. He talks about the crucifixion of Jesus Christ and says that to obtain happiness, humans must overcome destiny. For Dio's sake, Pucci must do what he could not, overcome the Joestar bloodline. But the Joestars are hard to keep down. Jolene outsmarts Pucci and survives a lethal blow. Pucci grabs a gun, he fires at Jolene, and then time freezes. Jotaro is back, saved by his daughter, ready to repay the favor. He freezes time, picks up a harpoon, and throws it at Pucci, but then, Pucci's eyes twitch. He moves during Jotaro's time stop, narrowly avoiding death. He gains the power to reach heaven. His stand transforms once more when things are most dire. It becomes Made in Heaven! Made in Heaven is an incredibly powerful stand. Dio could stop time, but Pucci can speed it up. Using this newfound speed, he escapes from the Joestar group. And then, they notice that the sun has begun to set. We see scenes from across the world play out as countless innocents are slain as collateral damage. Pucci switches to hit-and-run tactics, bursting out of nowhere to strike the Joestars down again and again. As the sun rises, the group stands in the wetlands, huddled together, waiting for Pucci to strike. Anasui offers himself as a sacrifice. Jotaro stops time right as Pucci attacks. He has just a brief moment to act. He can strike Pucci down, save the world, fight the enemy that it is his duty to kill, but then he sees the knives. Pucci has borrowed Dio's old trick. He threw knives at Jolene. Jotaro can kill the priest or save his daughter, but he can't do both. And Jotaro has always cared for Jolene. He saves her, but he's 2 steps too late to stop Pucci. Pucci taunts him. He says that the Joestar bloodline is a weakness, that Jotaro's love for his daughter is his weakness. And, just like that, Jotaro dies. Hermes and Anasui follow him to the grave. Jolene isn't killed instantly, but she's hit in the stomach by one of Pucci's knives. She begins bleeding out, deliriously thinking about how her father wasn't there for her. Emporio is the last one standing after Pucci's attack. The bodies of Anasui, Hermes, Jotaro, and Jolene float next to him as the priest stares down at the young boy. Pucci is about to kill Emporio when it's revealed Jolene is still alive, thanks to her father's sacrifice. She drags Emporio away and ties the 2 of them to a dolphin. Pucci races after her and... I love the second intro for Stone Ocean. It begins with a flashback of Jotaro defeating Dio, then zooms out, showing this is just a memory. It cuts to the hit and run, the crime in the rain Jolene was framed for, the consequences of Jotaro's heroism that his daughter had to deal with. We see Jolene and her friends fighting Pucci and staring at a star in the sky, the symbol of the Joestar bloodline. We see Foo Fighters ascending into heaven, and then the fight at Cape Canaveral. Jolene charging in to punch Poochie. It's a great intro, and of course, it changes during the final battle. And what it changes to is incredible. Jotaro, like Dio before him, freezes time and interrupts the intro, except his time stop suddenly ends, taking him by surprise. We see Poochie lunge in to kill him, and then we see Jonathan. We see the manga panels again, going from Jonathan through the ages, ending with Jolene. Phantom Blood was the beginning, this is the end. The chorus of the song kicks in. Heaven's falling down, my world is breaking down. It's all in my blood until the end of time. Destiny is mine, I will not surrender. As long as I can fight, the power is within me, shoot a thread of light. We see this thread of light, the string of fate passed by the Joestars, wrapped around the Stone Mask, Redstone of Aja, Requiem Arrow, and Dio's Bone, ultimately leading to Jolene. We see Jolene and Poochie fighting not at Cape Canaveral, but at the Joestar Mansion, as it spins and crumbles to rubble around them. The message is clear. This is the end of this bloodline. This is the battle between Dio's will and Jonathan's. Except, we all know how Jonathan's story ended. Jolene tells Emporio that she can't come with him. Her birthmark, the symbol of her bloodline, lets Poochie track her. The bloodline that has forced her to fight shall now force her to die. She begs Emporio to survive and be her hope. And then, she lets go. She strikes at Poochie, knowing she cannot win. We see Stone Ocean torn apart, its sunglasses shattered, and we see butterflies, the symbol of Jolene, flying away. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure's first part ended with failure, of a villain who could not be beat, and a man who died saving someone he cared about. Stone Ocean ends the same way. Jolene saves Emporio, but she dies in the process. Except, that isn't the end. The story keeps going. Emporio is still alive. He watches as Made in Heaven tears apart reality, time flowing so fast, the sun becomes a golden streak across the sky. Time unravels as the universe reaches its final moments, and then Emporio wakes up. He's back in Green Dolphin, where he first met Jolene. He goes to the meeting room, but the people there are different. They aren't Jolene and her father. Poochie explains that his stand dragged them to a new universe, that the people Emporio lost are gone. The dead cannot return. Even if the people of the new universe resemble those of the old one, they aren't the same. Their souls are different. Poochie explains that in this new world, destiny will repeat itself. Everything that has happened before will happen again. Every death, every tragedy, every beginning, and every end. He calls this heaven. To Poochie, this is happiness. A lonely world where we are slaves to our destiny. He says that even if people know they are going to die, they will be happy because their questions have been resolved. And isn't that just pathetic? This is what he fought for? This is the greater good he gleefully murdered everyone to achieve? This isn't heaven, this isn't happiness, but it's what Poochie wanted. A world where he doesn't have to worry about the consequences of his actions or mourn those ripped away by fate. A world with every bit as much sadness and pain, where at the very least, Poochie can numb himself to his own suffering by knowing it was all inevitable. A world where he isn't the one making the decisions, where he isn't responsible for what happened to his family. This isn't about his faith, it isn't even about Dio. It's a selfish, petty motivation. Before he dies, Weather tells his brother that he's the worst kind of evil there is. The kind of evil that doesn't realize that it's evil. And that's a perfect encapsulation of Enrico Poochie. Jolene and her friends, they didn't have lofty ambitions. They didn't give a damn about eternal happiness or reaching heaven. They fought for the people they cared about. They died to help those they loved. For the people they loved unconditionally, dreams of heaven be damned. They were happy because they were together, and Poochie took that away from them. Poochie corners Emporio, intending to kill this insignificant, lonely child to protect his heaven. But Emporio isn't alone. He has Weather's stand disc given to him by Jolene before she died. And with this stand, Emporio counters Made in Heaven. He fills the air with oxygen so concentrated it is poison. Even with his godlike stand, Poochie is still a man, and men need to breathe. Poochie inherited Dio's will. He carried on the generational blood feud and put it to rest. He thought that when the Joestars were dead, he would be victorious. But Emporio has inherited the will of the Joestars. There is this unbroken chain of sacrifices that lead to him. Will, Jonathan, Caesar, Avdol, Iggy, Kakyoin, Joseph, Foo Fighters, Weather, Anasui, Jotaro, Hermes, and finally Jolene. Every person who laid down their life in the fight against evil because they wanted to protect those they loved, they all lead to Emporio. The string of fate, the ray of light, he is where it ends. Their deaths were not meaningless because he's still fighting. As he dies, Poochie has the gall to beg for mercy. He pleads that his evil was the will of God, that he wanted to save mankind, but it's a hollow lie. Emporio tells him that he lost to fate, that the path of justice the Joestars and their allies walked was the true path of fate. He crushes Poochie's skull beneath his fist, and now it's finally over. Stone Ocean is about so many things. It's about fate and family and memory and sacrifice. It's a story, at its core, about people who fight for one another. But at the end of the day, it's still a tragedy. When Foo Fighters is dying, Jolene says she can steal the disc back from Poochie, that she can bring Foo back to life. Foo tells her no. That would be a different Foo Fighters. It wouldn't be them. The memories would be gone, and those memories are what gave Foo Fighters life. It began with the car in the rain. How fitting it is that it ends the same way. After Poochie dies, Emporio wakes up at a gas station. Hermes is waiting there. She's just missed the bus. Anasui and Jolene are also there in their car, except it isn't really them. They have different names, they've lived different lives. They aren't the same people because the memories are what made them who they were. Lost life can never be regained. It's comforting that the people Emporio cared about are, in some way, still alive, but they're still gone. Jolene's counterpart takes off her coat and gives it to Emporio. She asks his name and he cries as he says it's Emporio. They drive away as the rain begins to pour and pick up a hitchhiker, this world's version of weather. The car drives away and above it, we see those who have been lost, the people who Emporio will never see again. The ending theme during the first two parts of the anime was Roundabout, a 1971 song by the prog rock band Yes. The reason Roundabout works so good as an ending theme is because of how the song begins, with these slow, melancholy chords. Sometimes the show ends with the beginning of the first verse, where the song becomes this upbeat, bouncy tune, but those opening notes are an amazing tool when an episode needs to end on a sad note. From Part 3 onwards, the ending theme changes with each season. But in that final episode of Stone Ocean, as the car drives away, we hear a familiar sound. Roundabout returns. No song could better catch this feeling that this is the end of all that has come before. No song could work so well as we see moments in time from the previous parts, and no song would fit as well for such a tragic ending.